This is a News 10 special report.
Moments here in the city of Sullivan, especially over these last 12 years, but nothing quite gives me the chills like this. This is amazing how this community's come together, and folks and resources from all over the state of Indiana, and I'm going to try to acknowledge some of them here at the end. But to get straight to the point here, obviously I believe you guys have had some media reports that have been confirmed by the Indiana State Police. Now, here in the city of Sullivan, we're doing the best we can to get as much information out, but the state police and the coroner are working together hand in hand. They are the ones that actually identify, and as of right now I can confirm that there have been 3 fatalities, which I believe some of that information had already come out. It's definitely a tough time in our community. I also have reports that there are nearly 200 structures that have been affected. So that is county and city combined. Those are barns, those are homes, etc. But out of those 200, and these are of course estimates, right? We don't know 100% for sure because a lot of these came in over the night when it was still dark. Now that the light is here and morning has come, we can get some better numbers there. Out of those 200 structures, 155 are within the city limits. Last night, I really appreciate Mayor Joe Yoakum coming up from the city of Vincennes, and at 3:30 this morning, he and I evaluated some of the damage, especially south of Silver Street, and it was just absolutely unbelievable. Like nothing I'd ever witnessed, straight out of a movie. Just the carnage everywhere, the vehicles, people trying to get in, and then there was only 1 or 2 folks trying to come in, and then of course a dog that was left behind. So Mayor Joe and I, we got that dog, we took it out there. So, but it was just, words can't describe the feeling walking through your city of the carnage that we saw last night. Once again, that is 155 structures that we think have been affected here in the city limits. Here at City Hall, this is what we call the Unification Center. So if you do have a missing loved one, if you have any questions of a missing loved one, if you would like to report, if you have not heard from your loved one, 110 North Main Street here at Sullivan City Hall is the place that you need to come. We will have city staff working at the front. We're trying to keep folks away from the Sullivan County Emergency Management because that's where a lot of our first responders are coming and going, so we appreciate the folks in the press being here. But if you are looking, once again, for your loved one, or if you want to report your loved one missing or have some information on them, please see us here at 110 North Main Street here at Sullivan City Hall. We want to make this very clear. I know this is very tough. I know it's very difficult. I can't even imagine if my property personally was lost and damaged. You must be distraught, but please do not return to your property yet. Staff and crews are working as diligently as they possibly can, so you will be able to return to your properties, and we hope to have a better assessment sometime after 10 a.m. So I can assure you that emergency crews and responders are working the best they can so you can get back. I've had phone calls, I've had texts, and we've been flooded in dispatch and EMA, people wanting to return, rightfully so, to their property. But I can't stress it enough that nobody is to return to their properties, and we should have a better assessment around 10 a.m. We talked about property or people that might be missing, but to the 200 property owners that were affected countywide, we do have a center set up at Abundant Grace Church. During the night, the Salvation Army, we had that here at City Hall. We did have a generator, and we were actually able to use the fitness area. So the Salvation Army, kudos to them. We had several families and public safety officials that were here last night. They were sheltering in place, and now we are asking those folks to go to Abundant Grace. So if you need to eat, if you need to drink, if you need shelter, especially due to the fact if you don't have family or loved ones that you can't get back to your home right now, please, once again, go to Abundant Grace. Probably one of the biggest questions that we're getting flooded with. We are the community that does take time to care. And like I said, we are literally flooded with folks. Last night, it was a madhouse, people coming, and rightfully so, they wanted to help. They wanted to assist. But we can't emphasize enough, we need to evaluate your resources so we can utilize you in the best way possible. So for all residents all over Sullivan County, outside Sullivan County that want to help, that want to volunteer, please report to Sullivan High School. That started about 8:30 this morning. Now, there is no guarantee that there will be a plan in place for you to help. However, we need to get all your resources. We need to evaluate exactly what you essentially bring to the table. So if you are wanting to volunteer, please go to Sullivan High School this morning, and we are asking, do not deploy on your own. Last night we had a lot of folks that are wanting to come in and help. We appreciate the help, but the last thing we need is for a structure to still be unsafe and for a volunteer to show up on the scene and make an even more unsafe situation, right? We don't want a crumbling home to fall on the volunteer. We do have the USAR coming from Evansville. They are to evaluate the buildings, and they are specially trained. So we want the USAR to come in. That was set up by emergency management officials, the USAR to come in, and they can evaluate the situation, the buildings, to make sure they're safe for volunteers to be able to come in. So as stating the obvious here, our rescues are still ongoing. Matter of fact, there were 3 or 4 pulled from the rubble over the night last night, and as a matter of fact, before this press conference, I know public safety officials were rescuing and recovering a few more individuals this morning. So I can't emphasize enough that rescues are ongoing. Thank you. Please stay calm and patient. I assure you that we have a great team. We are on top of this, and this community will pull together and we will persevere. So at this time, I'll open it up to any questions. Yep. Tried to cover everything as much as possible.
Cliff, the Abundant
Yes.
Grace, that's the one, it's on 41. And
Formerly Sullivan Ford, yeah, out on Highway 41, and we
Walmart.
yes, right behind Walmart on Highway 41. And the reason why that was selected, we appreciate the church because, as many of you know, the power was out in the entire city last night, but out on Highway 41 they still had power. So we did have some difficulties even getting fuel to our city vehicles because our city gas pumps, we're hooked up to electric, so we had to send our city crews out to get gas out there. So, we are very prepared. We have a plan, but I can tell you that until you actually go through something like this, it's a lot of the little details that pop up. So, yes.
Clint, do you have an approximate scope of the area that's affected?
Right. It's my understanding, obviously, that the tornado was moving through Illinois, and I was told in a briefing earlier that around the Merrim Station area, we believe there was some debris there. We know in the New Lebanon area, and then moving eastbound into the south part of the city. So the physical, every part of the city was definitely affected, obviously with power outage, with tree limbs down, things like that. But it is essentially total devastation south of Silver Street. Matter of fact, it's been reported, I believe, by a lot of your media sources, the helicopter that used to be at the VFW was lifted and thrown. So I do know of reports of homes that were lifted up and on top of other homes. So essentially, the south of the city pool and the city park is essentially unrecognizable right now. So.
And that went a bit south, or was it a pretty?
That was moving. That was moving somewhat, pretty much eastbound. So when you go out Silver Street, people outside the city limits, which would be just south of the youth sports complex, the softball diamonds, I believe a lot of those homes are out, and it was very difficult last night to get out. So the Sinclair Street area, a lot of folks take Sinclair Street south to 54 to get to Duggar. So that was a very affected area, basically the Silver Street stretch. So, I don't want to say that we dodged a big one here because it did affect the city, but it did hit the south end of the city, did not come through the middle of the city, but still, one fatality, one home being destroyed is definitely not what we want to deal with here. So every life does matter. It is important, and we continue to ask for thoughts and prayers, obviously, throughout the community. I do want to say also one more thing. I elaborated this a little bit at the beginning, but I just can't say enough how overwhelmed we are with the people that are wanting to help. I talked to Terre Haute Mayor Duke Bennett last night. I did mention that the mayor of Vincennes, Joe Yoakum, was here. I spoke on the phone this morning with Indianapolis Mayor Joe Hogsett, willing to send resources down. I just, right before I walked in, got off the phone with Mayor Kathy Gross. She's the president of the Indiana Conference of Mayors from the city of Monticello, who had a tornado about 50 years ago. And then our state agency, Accelerate Indiana Municipalities, has been absolutely outstanding. So, mayors, I apologize I can't get back to you each and every one of you. There's 123 here in Indiana, and I've probably heard from about at least half of them. So everybody willing to send resources, the volunteers wanting to help, we appreciate that, but we do not want to suffocate, so to speak, the response crews that are already out there. Okay.
There was a mention that CSX was asked to halt trains and such coming through the area.
Yes, yeah, that can be confirmed. Last night, obviously, I mentioned it was down Silver Street, but it also affected the areas there just north of Silver Street around the city park, and we asked CSX to halt. That's very difficult. Anybody that deals with the railroad companies, you know, they have a schedule. They have to get around. They have to get and about and get their goods and services to other folks. We did ask them to halt that. It is my understanding it is still on hold. It has not been lifted yet. That is my understanding. Because of the fact we did not know, we had not had a chance to assess the potential damage to the actual tracks. So this is where this thing can really become a quagmire, right? It's not just like the tornado was here and now it's over and we start to clean up. This is going to be a very long process. This is going to take months and months, if not years, to totally recover from the impact of this. So we definitely didn't want to have any train issues, right? We've seen train issues in other communities here in the Midwest. We wanted to make sure we were doing everything that we could to avoid some type of a derailment. So.
You mentioned having to check the rest of the railroad tracks to make sure there's no extra damage. I guess if you could put a percentage on it within the city and the county, how much is left to check within the area of what of the damage that maybe hasn't been seen yet?
Yeah, we think we pretty much have an idea of the area. I mentioned the scope from St. Clair inside, but ongoing. It's ongoing right now, so I can't really give that information. We're just working relentlessly, tirelessly. Mm-hmm.
Clint, were the fatalities all in one location? Or do you have any information about it?
Anything to do with fatalities, I will pass that over to the coroner and the Indiana State Police. So. You know, if you lose one, it's one too many. But quite frankly, from a personal perspective, I can't believe it. I really can't. If you saw the devastation, if you saw the total carnage down there, I can't believe it. That there were not more people affected. So we also know that there were multiple injuries. We did transport some of those. SCAT, Sullivan County Ambulance Service, did transport some of those. And then some of those went, I believe, to Sullivan Hospital and Regional Hospital or Union somewhere in Terre Haute on their own as well. So we do know there were some injuries, but quite frankly, I'm really, really shocked that there isn't more, as far as human issues.
And I know you mentioned obviously going to Sullivan High School if you're wanting to volunteer, if you have abilities that you can offer.
Sure.
We have people wanting to know if there's a place to deliver supplies or if that's needed.
That's a good question. We are going to brief again at 12 o'clock, and I should have that information to you. I do know that we've had quite a few supplies. A lot of people have been bringing in. And also our first responders are taken care of for lunch, courtesy of the Salvation Army and the First Christian Church. That is one thing I did forget to mention here. That is, lunch is going to be provided for all of our public safety officials, first responders, courtesy of the Salvation Army. They're actually sending what they call the canteen down from Indianapolis. So our Salvation Army, which is the best in the state, really is. They were rated #1 in the state a few years ago, and we see why. They're here all the time. And also, I do want to also thank the Red Cross, because they are the ones that are taking over the shelter efforts at Abundant Grace. So I did mention that Abundant Grace was going to be open. That is courtesy of the Red Cross. So we have Red Cross, Salvation Army, EMA, Sullivan City Fire Department, Sheriff's Department, Indiana State Police. I saw fire departments from Oaktown. We saw Terre Haute City Police officers and firefighters here last night. Vigo County Sheriff's Department, Greene County, Worthington, Linton, you name it. Everybody was here to help, and we really appreciate that very much.
And then, obviously, if a lot of residents, they're at home, they're not going to come out, to avoid the area, what is your message, going forward to all of your residents?
Thank you for your love and concern for your neighbor. That's what Sullivan's all about, quite frankly. And there will be a time for you to come out and assess the damage as well, but we just can't emphasize enough how important it is to let the first responders do their job. Let these units come in that are trained in situations like this to take care of these things. And then once we come back at noon, I hope to have more information where we can get you out and helping. So basically stay put and and we appreciate, we know that help is on the way, and thank you very much. But we will be tapping into those resources at a later time. Okay.
Did you say 10 o'clock too, there's going to be an update?
Noon. We'll be right back here at 12 o'clock today for an update, yeah. And we really appreciate our friends in the press coming together in one location. I know you're going to want to get some footage. We're just really trying to streamline this process and spread this out. First responders eating at First Christian Church, folks sheltering at Abundant Grace. Folks can come in here to the City Hall to report missing individuals, ones that they can be reunified with. And then, of course, basically Mobile Command Center is at the Sullivan County Emergency Management on Harris Street. So we are definitely on top of this, and we're taking care of a very, very horrific situation. Any other questions? Comments? Okay, thank you all for coming. We'll see you back here at noon. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Clint.
And that was Sullivan Mayor Clint Lamb giving an update on the situation that's going on down there in the city, and we carried that live for you. And from what we learned from that press conference, he said 155 structures were impacted in the city alone, plus many others in the county. And also, at least 3 people have died there, and he's saying that everything south of Silver Street is just completely destroyed. And he says it's going to take a long time for them to basically recover from this. He also said if you're missing a friend or family member, you're asked to report that to Sullivan City Hall, and there's supposed to be another update at noon. You can also go to City Hall if you need any resources like power or just shelter even, but they were asking everyone to stay inside as well. And Everett, I think you believe there's some updates probably coming, people coming through to assess all the damage?
Yeah, the National Weather Service is hoping to send out storm survey crews today, so hopefully they make it to Sullivan County. It may take them a while to go through all the damage the way the mayor described it as total devastation south of Silver Street. So it may take a couple days, but hopefully some meteorologists get on the ground there and they can kind of determine maybe the intensity of this storm. If it was on the ground all the way through Crawford County, because we know there's been damage there as well. So hopefully we get some good updates today now that the sun is up and crews continue to respond.
Yes, and as the mayor said, he'll be back there at noon to give even more updates. He also mentioned if you want to help, you want to volunteer, you should meet at Sullivan High School. They are looking for volunteers with some unique abilities to help out with the devastation down there. But